Hello, my fine friends. Welcome back to Destination Discourse. I'm your host, Stuart Butler, joined today with the loquacious Adam Stoker. How are you, sir?
Loquacious, I'm good. You're throwing out words that are beyond my current vocabulary, and so it puts me in a
Mm-hmm.
tough situation. I don't know if I should be glad you said loquacious, or if I
Well,
should
Google
be
it. Why,
embarrassed or
why don't you Google it real
disappointed.
quick and then
I,
tell
I think
me?
you have to spell it to Google it, don't you? Let's
Well,
see.
they're pretty good at autocorrect. I think if you take a good stab at it, you'll see. I think
Okay.
you'll be okay with this one. I don't think it's.
Oh, oh, I don't know. I believe that what you're saying is I talk too much, Stuart.
I'm saying you like to tell a good yarn. You like to tell a story. You know, you talk a lot. That's all I'm saying.
I guess you can't be a podcaster without being a little loquacious.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah,
And it's better than average, which is what you were last week. So that's good.
that's true.
Oh. Well, I'm going to try to find a different word that you're going to have to figure out each week. Let's see if we
Yeah,
can stick with
yeah,
that
this
one.
could be a fun 2 week tradition, and then you'll give
Yeah,
up on it like the
yeah,
other
probably
ones.
so. Yeah, yeah. Although if it's finding words that are not in your vocabulary, yeah, there's quite a few to choose from. I would probably imagine. I don't know. You'll,
Especially if
you'll
they're from the British dialect.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely
Yeah,
do that. I might get a little
yeah.
offensive though, so we'll have to be careful.
Like
But
a
hey,
biscuit. I mean, who knows what a biscuit is, right?
well, everyone knows what a biscuit is. Adam, we've been rude once again as we like to go off on tangents. We got a guest with us today, and it's not just any old regular average Joe guest. This is like I would say OG Desty, um, fan of the show, maybe super fan of the show.
I
It's
would say
Caleb,
super fans,
it's
correct?
Caleb
Yeah.
Sullivan. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. And I'm digging those $10 words, but I think in a British accent, it makes them a $15 word. So,
That's
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely right.
maybe
sounding
15
good.
pound word.
Yeah,
There we
yeah,
go.
there you go. There you go.
Depending on the exchange rate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it varies. This is very true. Caleb, we're glad you're on the show. We've mentioned you on the show before. You've written in on a few comments, and we had some folks reach out and said, "Would you just make Caleb's dreams come true and allow him the honor of being on Destination Discourse?" So here you are, my friend. I mean, this got to be a highlight of your career so far,
This
I would
is
imagine.
I will tell you, this is a full circle moment for me. A
Yeah,
proud member of the Destination. So shout out to all my
nice.
Desties
Oh
out
man, he
there.
is an OG listener. I love it.
That's right.
Absolutely. The amount of times I've heard the Stews News jingle while I'm on a run would probably surprise you. So yeah,
Mm.
good
It
stuff.
doesn't make you run faster.
It
You're
it
trying to
makes
get
me
away from
dance
it.
a little bit when I'm running. I'll tell you that. I put a
Okay.
little more bob in the head,
You,
get the
you hear
strut
that,
We're
moving.
Stuart?
Yeah, we're fully expecting a full-on dance today for those watching on YouTube. So when the Stu's News jingle comes on, we don't let us down now, Caleb.
I think I can do that for you.
So I want to tell our audience too, Caleb, you and I go way back. We sort of
Yeah.
came into this industry around the same time-ish, but we actually originally met on Clubhouse during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so this is when I was on the evil empire side of the agencies,
There it is.
and I had a podcast, and we were trying to help everyone at the very beginning of the pandemic just figure it out. And this was right around the time Clubhouse, which if people don't remember, Clubhouse still exists, but it's not very popular anymore. But at the time, it was super popular. It was like an audio only social channel, and it was very much real time, right? You couldn't record stuff and go and see it later. You actually have to be a part of conversations. So we hosted travel and tourism specific conversations, and I met you there. I met Amir Elon there from
Hmm.
Longwoods. So it's cool. And then a few months later, several months later, I joined Visit Myrtle Beach, and you were in North Carolina on the DMO side at the time, and you
Hmm.
were one of the first connections I made. And I remember meeting you in person for the first time at Esto, and we had
Yep.
a good time at one of the late night parties there,
As
singing
we
singing
should,
some singing some songs about Myrtle Beach, which are probably
That's
not
it.
appropriate
Hold
for
on though. I
Probably
for
gotta
not
I gotta
appropriate for this podcast. Yeah.
yeah.
I gotta dissect this connection a little bit because
Hmm.
if I'm hearing it correctly, Stuart, you were actually the vendor and Caleb was the potential client when this whole
Wow.
relationship started. Is that correct?
Wow. Well, yeah,
My, how the tables have
sort of,
turned.
although I wasn't selling to the DMO space. So technically he wasn't a prospect of mine, but yes, I was a vendor and he was a client
Yeah.
technically at
So
that time.
he was
Yeah.
righteous and you were evil.
This is very true.
Yeah.
But
I can't even
as you
believe it.
said, the tables have turned, and now here we are. And I guess I'm the righteous guy.
I guess
You
so.
could call us both the righteous brothers if you wanted to. That would work as well. So that joke's
I like
unchained.
it.
I'm going too far. I know. Like two people got that joke, but it's okay.
And they're not on this podcast.
That's true. But then you took a little detour, right, Caleb? You went
Yeah.
from the DMO side to Carvatize for a few couple of years, and now you're with an agency. So
I
you're
am.
like on the evil side of the industry with
I
along
guess
with
so.
Adam.
Yeah.
But what we're going to talk about today is that vendor-client relationship, and I think it's good because we've got perspectives from both sides of that fence, and
Yeah.
I think we want to talk about there's a right way to do that, which I think you exemplify. And there's certainly very many wrong ways to do that, and I want to give some specific examples today on some of the wrong ways to do it that maybe grind my gears a little bit. But before we get into that, before we talk about the amazing relationship
Is it time?
we have,
Is it time, guys?
it is time. Are you ready, Caleb? Want to
The
see
best
this dance
segment in
moves?
all of podcasts. Let's
There
go.
you go. You heard it from him.
I love it.
He's got like an Elon Musk
Oh, yeah.
style dance going on there.
It's like the same
What did you
guy.
say? Yeah. That's pretty impressive, Caleb. Awesome.
Oh,
Did it live
Finally,
up to
someone who
expectations?
appreciates high quality music.
that is
Well,
high quality music right
That is
there.
one interpretation for sure. So today's Stu's News, we're actually going to do a little housekeeping. We're gonna read out a couple of the comments we've received from the Destination out there from some of our Desties, and one of them posed a really interesting question, which I think we can probably tackle with the folks that we got on the show today. So, Adam, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you want to tell them what episode it was from, and then maybe read a couple of these comments out.
Yeah. So first of all, Nate Graysock, who is another OG listener that I wish we could get on the show. I think he said he can't for some reason, something with his organization, which is kind of a bummer. But Nate, if that ever changes, we'd love to get you on the show.
Maybe we'll get him to come on in disguise, like wear a mask.
Yeah.
Would change his voice.
I like that.
Nate, the
We
offered
should do that.
stance. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll call him Nathaniel, so nobody will know.
There you go.
Okay.
That's right.
So Nate says, I've seen some, by the way, this is in reference to episode 36, where it says, our CMOs focused on, and what's the rest of that title, Stuart? Help me out.
I think it on the wrong thing. I think it was. That was the one.
Was it Emily?
Yeah. That's
Emily,
where we were
yeah.
talking about being focused on advocacy and marketing
Yeah.
and marketing and justifying what we're doing versus actually promoting the destination. Actually,
Yep.
shout out to Emily. That's now our most popular episode. We've had more listens to that episode than any other. So sounds
Rightfully
to me
so.
like we
She was
need-
great.
Yeah. Emily's
one of the
awesome.
best
Shout out to Emily.
conversations. Yeah. So Emily, if you ever want to come back on the show, we'd love to have you. But
We need to get our listenership up, so come back.
Yeah, she may just need to come on every episode because
Yeah.
apparently they prefer her than they prefer us. So, yeah.
Let's read this comment. It says, I've seen some organizations having webinars or roundtables where solution providers are asked not to give a sales pitch, but to talk about case studies that have been successful with their clients and create conversations around the case study and what other destinations have done as well. Creating sales through case studies and what's worked for different destinations versus a sales pitch on the solution provider's products, creating a more collaborative environment. And then hashtag destination. I shouldn't leave that off.
That's awesome. Yep. I sort of want to put a pin in that conversation because it's a part of
It's
the
part of
topic I
today's
want to talk
discussion.
about today, right?
Yeah.
Which is what's a good approach. And I actually want to give an example of a conversation I had with one of the owners and founders of Carvatize when they were just getting started. And so let's put a pin in that. But Nate, great comment, and we're going to address it later in the episode. So you got to stick around.
This one is from an anonymous commenter. So I don't know how much digging we could do to find out who it is, but it's Cecil.4454. Who could that be? I just don't know.
No idea.
It says, Emily is the best. Love the insights here. Thank you for continuing to provide value to our industry. Hashtag destination. I think we're making fetch happen here. I just want to throw that out there. This hashtag destination thing. I like it.
Now, is everyone
Uh,
spelling it the right way? Because you and I have
they
had some
are.
debates about how to
They
spell it,
are.
right? I look back at one of the earlier comments and someone did spell it early on with a Y, but I think now everyone's beginning to do the IE. So that's the
Well,
canon version. But we'll
you know
accept
what
either.
though? They're actually spelling it without the E, so it's Desti, Desti Nation.
Oh, so you're saying
Destination.
the
Yeah.
way I suggested we should do it is how they're
Well,
spelling it? Oh, interesting.
yeah, and I want to stress, I'm not suggesting that they're doing it correctly. I'm just suggesting they're doing it the way you would like them to. So,
Right.
however you
Which
want to
which
interpret that.
to Caleb's point, destination makes more sense. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know. We
Okay.
may need to redo some merch. I'm just saying. Maybe we need a
Well, that'll
poll.
be a
Maybe,
challenging undertaking at this point.
hey, let's do this. I got it. Next week, from when this airs, we're going to be live at Esto, and we're going to be polling the audience real time. We should ask the audience. Should it be
That's a great way to
destination
do
or
it.
destination? What
You
is
know
it?
what? Let's do that. Another alternative option would be maybe you bring some t-shirts with the way you want it spelled, and I'll do the ones I've already sent to print.
Oh man, did you really already send them to print? It's okay.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
this first
So
batch is we're not locked
we're
in,
we're
right?
early in the brand,
Yeah,
there's
Yeah.
there's still
things
some
evolve, right?
malleability
There's
here.
evolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. It's when overstock.com changed to o.co,
Yeah.
you know,
It
it's
happens.
and then back. You know, we can be fluid with our brand. It's fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nate said, you brought up Esto. Nate also said, wish I could be at Esto to meet and see you guys in person. Unfortunately, I'll be on the road for work, so we won't get to see Nate in person there. And then I know that you wanted me to get to this comment by Dustin Rowe. He says, which by the way, this one is, our DMOs ready to, it's episode 38. What was that one, Stuart? Help me out.
Might have to pull that one up. What was 38? Was that the
I think that's
mm.
our most recent one that we've published.
It may have been.
But
Um,
anyway, we'll come back to that. But he says, I'd love to double click on the idea of bringing outside talent to the DMO. What are the biggest hurdles that external talent would need to overcome to be successful?
yeah, it's oh, it was the one. It was our DMOs ready to compete for the best talent. That was the
Mm.
topic. So
Our friends at Searchwide.
Yeah.
it sure
Cambria.
was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was
Yep.
a
Yep.
fun one. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. I mean, what are the biggest hurdles external talent would have coming into this industry to be successful?
So Caleb, I'm going to turn it to you a little bit. So
Yeah.
before you were on the DMO side,
Mhm.
what were you busy doing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and we're going to go a little bit further back because I think it kind of lays a good foundation for how I found this industry, or really how this industry found me. So I grew up in a small little town on the North Carolina side of the Smokies called Cherokee, North Carolina. And during that time, I my grandparents were hoteliers. They owned a little motel called the Homestead Inn. And some of my earliest memories were like people coming in, asking for the rate, like me going back to get them to bring them out, to tell them about the rooms and stuff like that. And kind of fast forward a little bit, went through school. My first job was in the quick service restaurant industry, right? Like fast food. And I did a 6 year stint through school, through high school and college, working in the service industry. I ended up working for Harris Cherokee Casino in Cherokee, North Carolina as a server. I did that through college. And it really kind of set me up to have a broader understanding of both service and the tourism economy. It's the largest employer in my little neck of the woods here. And so through that, I was going to school, working at Harris Cherokee, and I needed a mentorship kind of program toward the end of school. It was like my Com 460 like capstone course, and someone recommended. I reached out to Nick Breedlove at Discover Jackson County. It was a newer DMO at the time. I think they had just started. I think he had just got hired full time, maybe like a year or two before that. And I reached out to him as like a, hey, would you mentor me? And he was like, yes, but I'd like to give you an internship, which was really cool. And apparently he didn't like interns. He had a lot of bad luck with them. And I always like to say I sang for my dinner. I hit the ground running. I worked really hard. And he hired me on as his first ever new hire to fill a position of being the sales and marketing manager there at Discover Jackson County. So that's a long-winded way of saying I didn't realize, I guess looking back in the immediate, that destination marketing, hospitality, and tourism was really like in my blood, but it's something I came up around. And I saw firsthand how it, provided value to the community. And next thing I know, I'm promoting my home county for a 4-year stint there. So that's kind of how I ended up starting on the DMO side.
So what were there specific barriers when you sort of went from more the service industry side, more the hospitality side, to the destination promotion side? Were there specific barriers that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I think one of the barriers is understanding the industry as a whole, right? Like when you're working at a specific, restaurant, resort, you're kind of thinking in like a one-dimensional term, right? How can I bring, visitors to my resort? In my case, how can I give the best level of service to these people who are visiting, spending money at Harris Cherokee? Well, with the broader visitor economy and breaking into the DMO space, you have to have that same sort of understanding and attention to detail and service, but for a whole county. So it's important to really take some of those skills and just kind of shift them. I was fortunate in that, I was promoting the place where I grew up, right? Like I've been in Jackson County my whole life. I have no intention on leaving. It's a great place to raise a family, great place to live. So I was able to transfer a lot of those skills directly into the role at Discover Jackson County. One of the most important things I can recommend for anyone looking to get in the industry, I've got a good friend of mine. Shout out to Tyler Ford. He's in automotive, right? Which is a little bit different than tourism. But one of the things I always
Oh my
recommend.
gosh, Caleb.
Yeah.
Tyler has been interacting with me on LinkedIn, and I was trying to figure out where I
Yep.
knew him from or what the connection was. It's so good to know that he's a connection through you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's a great guy. So any tourism vendor partners out there looking for a rock star, that's your guy. But I will say, he's asked me this question. We've been on this quest of like learning about the DMO space, and I always tell him the best thing you can do is to listen, right? Like learn as much as you can, connect with everybody you can, do all the right things, as they would say. Like good example of connecting with you. He's a big fan of the Destination, so he's definitely a Desty. But yeah, ultimately, listen and see where you can fit in and see where you can assist the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a people industry, right? I think most people that get into this are caring people. They want to serve others. I think whether you come from like a hospitality background into travel and tourism promotion or others, I think you got sort of immediately learn it's a family, right? It's a tight
Absolutely.
knit group, and everyone knows everyone. I think for me, coming in from a sort of a tangential side, although I started out early on as a developer, coder, we did a lot of retail, e-commerce websites and online stores, things like that. Then spent 15, 20 years doing hotels. So really was very similar to what we're doing here in destinations before I came here. But my first sort of, when I knew I was coming over to the destination world, I started listening to a lot of podcasts, understanding the jargon, right? Because there's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of
Oh yeah.
words that we use that we assume everyone uses, which they don't. So I think understanding the vocabulary and the jargon is important. So listening to a lot of podcasts, reading people on LinkedIn, figuring out who's connected and how they're connected. But then once you get past sort of the initial intimidation of not knowing anything and not knowing what you don't know, then it's just connecting with people, having conversations. And what I've learned is the best way to connect is to ask people you're already connected with to introduce you to other people, whether you're on the vendor
Absolutely.
side or whether you're on the DMO side. People here are very generous at giving, providing you with their developed equity in a relationship, right? They're very much. If anyone emails me and says, "Hey, can you introduce me to so and so?" 99% of the time I'll do it unless I feel like it's not, an appropriate thing to do. So I think to me, that's the biggest advice I could give anyone trying to break into this industry is find one or two connections and then ask them to, be proactive about it and be open about it and say, I really need to make friends and be
Yeah.
honest. I don't know anyone in the industry. Can you introduce me to some people, please? And if you're specific, say, I'd really like to meet this person. Can you introduce me? Like I've said, most of the time people are going to do it. Adam, would you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
when you got into the travel industry, you got it through a client, right? And then did you find
Yeah.
specific barriers after
I
that?
came from outside as well, and one of the things that I found is you're right that if you ask for an introduction and stuff, usually people will give it to you. But
Hmm.
I also learned that this is a time investment industry.
Hmm.
Like the people don't, there's a lot of people that show up and think there's a quick buck to be made in our space.
Yeah.
And people are very, I would say, hesitant or reticent to take a risk on those guys. And so they kind of want to wait and see if you're truly going to invest in the space. And so one of the things that happened is we started in Utah in the destination marketing space, and we would see new agencies show up at the Utah Tourism Conference every year. And then the following year, they wouldn't be back because
Yep.
they showed
Hmm.
up thinking they were going to be able to pick up a couple of clients. And turns out it wasn't that
Hmm.
easy. I mean, look, I started in the industry in 2000 or in 2012, and I still feel like a relative newcomer to the industry. And I have worked tirelessly to try to provide value and to connect with the people in the space. And I think it might be one of the biggest barriers to people coming into the industry, because you have to kind of demonstrate that you are not a fly by night, show up for a season, grab
Yeah.
a client and disappear vendor.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I also think you've got to, if you're on the vendor side, I think you've got to commit to the industry. If you look at the guys that have been successful, I think it's a little chicken and an egg in a way, but I think it's not a coincidence that these guys are the big sponsors of the big conferences, right? You look at
Yeah.
an MMGY or a Miles or a Madden, these are the guys that show up to the major events and have their name plastered everywhere, because I think
Right.
that shows a level of commitment that gives a level of comfort. As a DMO, we talked a lot last episode about risk taking and how we're risk adverse, and so it there's very few DMOs willing to roll the dice on a new person until they've gotten a couple of case studies under their belt, until they've
Yeah.
gotten a couple of success stories that mitigate my potential risk. So
Yeah.
again, it comes down to relationships, but it also comes down to commitment from the vendor side. And
Yeah.
then if you're on the DMO side, I think the barriers are probably lower, right? Because I think
Hmm.
one of the things I've learned is even though we're all competing with each other, there's a lot of collaboration from DMO to DMO. But I'd also say if you want to accelerate, is reach out to the different organizations, whether that's a DI, whether that's US Travel, whether that's um, STS. That's one of the areas. That's one of the places, Caleb, you and I, as DMOs, first started
Hmm.
having conversations with was through their coffee and
Yep.
conversations once a month. So there
Absolutely.
are forums out there where you can meet peers on the DMO side, serving on committees, serving on boards, things like that. But you
Yeah.
got to be proactive about it. Nominate yourself,
Yeah, I
build good
agree. And
relationships.
one of the things I like to say is, we're in the friendship economy, right? Like what we do, I'll go back to my example of my buddy Tyler. Like, I brought him with me to the Visit North Carolina conference when it was in Hickory in March. And he was just kind of blown away by the collaboration, by the
Mhm.
friendships that we make. And that's what sets us apart. He could not wrap his head around being in a job or a career where you get to like work and spend time with your friends, and you get to collaborate, and you get to be creative and innovative. And that's something that we really have special here in the DMO space. And one of the things that's really helped me in my career, because guys, like I did not understand how to sell when I started at Carvertise, and I've got a fun little story that we can go along with that. But one of the things that I think us as vendors can do, Barbara Karasik, the owner of our agency, she has a great line. She says, if you want a vendor, go find a Coke machine, right? Like we're here to be partners, we're here to be friends, and we're here to contribute to our industry. So that's kind of number one. When it comes to understanding, especially as a service provider and as a partner, what destinations need, the most important thing we can do, and I'm a big fan of like Stephen R. Covey, and one of the habits is to seek first to understand, then to be understood, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't make a difference. I mean, Stuart, you and I chatted about Carver Ties, for a while, but it doesn't make a difference if I just come to you with a product that's not going to serve your needs, that's not going to be
Mhm.
innovative, and that's not going to move the needle. And I think a lot of times as new vendors and new service providers in this space, we want to talk about me, me, me. Well, no, no, no. It's really about us and how we can help and serve these destination partners. Because the more that we succeed together, the more the whole industry succeeds. And I think that needs to be the paradigm that newcomers in this space kind of have. Um, and I'll hit a funny story for you. So when I started with Carvertise, right, like I was our first industry hire. They had never hired anybody from the DMO space. And Carvertise, does a lot more than just destination marketing work. I worked with
Hmm.
Coca-Cola and the Army, and we work with big brands and all this. Well, I felt like I really had to prove myself because they took a chance on me. I had no sales experience aside from like destination sales, which is like way different. And I'll never forget this. I'm in El Dorado, Arkansas at the Arkansas Governors Conference.
I was
And
there.
yeah, you were there for that. Yeah, it was a good time. But man, I didn't know what to do. I'll be completely honest. Like, it was my first conference. I'd been working for the company for like 2 months. Um, and I go up to the outgoing commissioner of Parks and Rec in tourism, and I start like hard selling this guy on Carvertise, right? It was like, thank God he was the outgoing one, like not the incumbent. But I will say, and like Travis Napper, bless his heart, this is right before he went over to tourism economics, and he just kind of let me ramble. He's such a good guy. Shout out to Travis.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but I'll never forget this, and this was just groundbreaking in my career at Carvertise, and even now. Jason Manges from Adara pulled me aside and he said, "Caleb, what are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You are not good at selling. Like, you're not a hard seller." He's like, "Just like listen, like get to know them first and be a friend." And that little bit of advice changed the trajectory of my career with Carvertise. To by the time I left, I had grown my vertical in my region to be the company's most profitable. And it was from listening and from understanding and from providing campaigns, not just, here's a number of cars, here's, some event you can take over. It was by understanding what the objectives of the DMO were and then sliding in with, a potential service.
How cool of
Yeah.
Jason to do that. I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about it, vendors are all fighting for this a slice of the same pie,
Yep.
and even if you're not in the same competing vertical, it still comes out of the same pie. And
Yep.
for him to pull you aside and say, "Hey, here's a couple things that might help you," that kind of speaks to the type of industry we're in,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And he is my mentor, and we've kept close to this day. And yeah, he really helped me honestly give me some confidence in that my strengths of having all these friends and my strengths of being involved in this industry was what's important, not going out and hard selling. And I think one of the things that we can do as an industry is, we can welcome in new service providers with open arms. We're all competing for the same slice of the pie, but we have to understand that each of us can offer something unique to assist the DMO in one way or another. So again, it's about lifting the industry and not necessarily just our bottom line.
Yeah. So we sort of segued from our Stu's News into the main topic. So let's sort of double down on this now and really start talking about this vendor client relationship. And I want to start by talking a little more about our relationship, Caleb. And you're one of the vendors, and there's a select few in this industry that I will always respond to. I'll always answer the phone call. I'll always respond to the email. I'll always take a meeting. I've never, full disclosure, I've never spent a penny with you yet,
Yeah,
but I'm
yet.
100% convinced that at some point in the future I will, because you have my attention and you have my trust and you have my respect, right? And that's what it's about. There's a lot of vendors will pitch me. I mean, I get pitched 1,000 times every
Yeah,
week. Like it's ridiculous. And with the title changes, it's only gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. And so,
can only imagine.
um, what you've always done since you went on the vendor side is you've always put the relationship first.
Yeah,
You've always asked me how things are going. You've always talked about what our problems are and how we can solve them, how you may be able to solve them, but you've always done it in a consultative way. And I remember early on in your Carpetaz career, must have been after you talked to Jason, because you weren't doing the hard pitch. We were trying to create a campaign that checked the boxes I was looking to check, right? Because I like philosophically, I like the concept of Carpetaz. I think there's a good product, but we were looking for something a little more, a little unique, a little special. And you really worked hard at it. And I came back to you and pretty much said, yeah, it's just not right timing. And you
Yep.
didn't react to that. You didn't pout about that. There was no backlash from me. You were like, I totally respect that. I'm gonna go work on this and come back to you later on with some more. And you did this like 2 or 3 times. And every time you listened to me, you adjusted. And the timing just was never right, or we never quite found that secret thing. But you never pressured me.
No.
You never showed frustration. Like it was always like, okay, when it's right, we'll figure it out. And it's just not right yet. So
Yep.
I've always appreciated that. And that means now wherever you go, whatever vendor you end up with, now or in the future, I'll always give you my attention. I'll always hear you out. And if and when that the stars do align, then I will spend money with you wherever you are. So
Yeah.
I want to tell you how much I appreciate that approach, and I wish more vendors took that approach.
Yeah.
Can I just for the sake of discussion take the other side of that, Stuart?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I want to stress I don't believe this what I'm about to say, but I think it's important for everybody to hear both sides of an issue. If I'm a vendor and I have pitched somebody 3 times and they communicate to me very clearly they think I'm a great person and it's a great relationship and everything, but they never actually come through, at some point I have to weigh the value of my time and where it's spent. And this is an interesting dynamic that I think vendors have to balance on a consistent basis. Is the friendship is incredibly valuable, but I, as an employee of a vendor, am held responsible to a specific, whether it's a sales quota or a
Mm-hmm.
performance quota or something like that. And so I like the story you share, Stuart, with Caleb here. And Caleb, to be clear, I think you handled everything very correctly. But I think there's an argument to be made that in Caleb's situation, he could actually be impacted negatively by all the time spent and you not pulling the trigger to work with him. And I'm definitely not saying, oh, Stuart, you were wrong and screwed this up. That's the balance that I think
Mm-hmm.
both vendors and clients need to figure out. And
Yeah.
I think there's a scenario where clients can string the friendship along, knowing that there's not going to be some sort of an
Yeah.
opportunity to collaborate in the
Well,
long term.
so let me sort of push back on that a little bit, because I think, we certainly have a friendship, right? And there are different degrees of friendship, but we certainly do have a mutual respect and trust and admiration and all that good stuff, which is why I'm willing to engage with him more frequently than I maybe someone that's just a vendor trying to sell me. It depends on your perspective, right? Are you looking at the short-term wins? Because he could have done a hard sell, and I doubt it because I'm kind of stubborn, but he maybe could have gotten one campaign with me at Carvertise for, let's say $10,000. But it would probably have not worked the way I wanted it to, and I'd probably never do business with him again, right? So he could have probably got a short-term win, but in the long term, if I was a betting man, I've still got a good 15, 20 years in my career, right? At least. And so I think at some point there's going to come a time when I'm spending significantly more with Caleb. Like that would be my hope and my guess. But maybe not. But I think it's still at the end of the day when you're selling anything, it's a game of numbers. But those numbers and the conversion rates are going to increase dramatically if you have an approach that is more well received. So for every one of me that he's done that approach with that hasn't bought, I'd say there's probably 10 that he's done that same approach with that have purchased with him because the stars have already aligned. So, I mean, it's obviously
Yeah.
landed him a new gig. He already said that he was one of the best performing
Yeah.
salespeople there at Carvertise. So the strategy works. It maybe doesn't work on the individual level with every individual, but I think if you're playing the long game,
Yeah.
it's the right approach.
And the
I don't know,
strategy
Caleb, if you agree with
works.
that.
No, I do. I think the strategy works in this industry. So again, it's a very unique industry in that we are in the friendship economy. So I kind of look at prospecting, new business development. I'll sidetrack. I had a new VP of sales come in at Carvertise during my time there. And when he started, he said he wanted to start putting, because I'm the friendship guy, right? Like I love all y'all. Like this is my industry, this is my family. And he essentially told me, he was like, we're going to start putting dollar amounts on your friendships. And I just didn't
Mm,
listen to him. I was like, okay, cool.
hmm
Do whatever you want to do. But like in my mind, my time is best spent learning from you guys. My time is best spent growing with you guys, both business related and professionally, and in our friendships. And so, we can put a dollar amount on some of these things, but at the end of the day, you never know where people are going to end up. You never know, what the next career move is. You never know when, like now being on the agency side. So now I'm the VP of Destination Development for Paradise Advertising. So, I'm 4 weeks in, I'm learning a lot about the agency side, right? Like I'm just going for it. And you never know when those stars will align. And I think one of the things that served me is I genuinely just like having friends. Like I like hanging out with people. I like getting to know about people, their families, what makes them tick. My favorite question to ask is like, what's your favorite thing about your destination? And I love seeing the eyes light up and just learning all these cool things about all these different places. And, I just think at the end of the day, when we go to these conferences, we are taking time away from our family. We are going to learn together. We're going to do business together. And we're really going to kind of get to know each other and have some fun, right? So when we have that time investment in traveling and learning, we need to make the most out of it, right? So, go talk to somebody new, go up and, spend some time getting to know somebody and understand that even if there's no immediate business relationship or opportunity, that that's our job, right, is to spend time with y'all and to
Yeah.
get to know you guys.
Yeah, I for me it was a little bit different, Caleb. I've been at these trade shows with you, and I actually think you have an incredible talent and ability to connect with somebody quickly in a one-to-one basis, right? Like you can walk up to someone and start a conversation. 5 minutes later, you guys are genuinely friends. It's not a superficial, like,
Sure.
oh, Caleb's trying to sell me something. Like everybody that meets you feels like they are a friend of yours, and I think that's a very unique talent. I actually do not do very well with small talk. And in fact, I bet there's people who have met me at conferences that are kind of like, I expected different. You know what I mean? And so
Sure.
for me, the
They
way
expected you to
that
be more loquacious.
loquacious, yeah, exactly. And we're back. Um, for me, that wasn't a talent that I was able to really capitalize on in the same way. I also, as someone who doesn't drink, I think a lot of the opportunities happen over a beer or something like
Sure.
that that maybe I was missing out on. And so I wanted to figure out how I could provide value. That's what led me to create the Destination Marketing Podcast.
Yeah.
And well, the result of that was me being able to build relationships at scale. And now I go to these conferences and people come up, hey, Adam, you mentioned this on the show. And all of a sudden I've
Yep.
got a conversation starter. I don't have to come up with that proverbial pickup line to
Sure.
go meet somebody and talk to them, and it's been really valuable for me. So I think the the reason I'm telling that story is I think the important thing is figuring out how you can add value to the person you
Hmm.
want to build a relationship with. I think the value you can add a lot of value, but the thing that I've noticed personally is the ability to quickly build a relationship with somebody in a one-to-one setting. For me, it was different. I tried to provide value in the form of education because these one-to-one conversation starters weren't really big things for me. So I
Sure.
think you, as a vendor, you just have to figure out how you can utilize your skills to provide value to the
Oh,
industry.
100%. And that was a point I wanted to make. Like, I am an extrovert. I will be in front of the DI house band up at the front of the stage. I will take people to go sing karaoke late at night. Like, I love grabbing a beer. I love conversing with folks. That's my strength. That's not everybody's strength. I've seen great people in this space that are a little more reserved, that are a little more introverted, that are just absolutely great at what they do. And I think it's important not to try to be something that you're not, right? Like just be yourself. People really like kind of cling to that, right? Like they want to get to know somebody in a genuine way. So don't put on an act, right? Like just be yourself. Adam, what you've done and what you've built has been very impressive, and it's helped me a lot in my career, right? Like the Destination Marketing Podcast, obviously this podcast, Destination Discourse, like that is something that you built, and that is a relationship starter and a maintainer, honestly, with people listening in every week. But yeah, just be yourself, right? Like I put here like authenticity sells. Like just not everyone can be doing karaoke at midnight and then get up at 7:30 and go have coffee with folks. Like that's just something I mean I'm only 20, I just turned 28, so we'll see how long I can keep it up, but it's a good time.
Yeah, but
That's
I think
awesome.
both of you are coming to the same end point from a different perspective, though, right? Because at the end of the day, people will do business. They'll spend money with people that they like and they trust, right?
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest factors. Now, obviously, price matters, the value that you're providing matters, but it doesn't matter what the product is. If I don't like and trust you, I'm probably not going to do business with you. Certainly
Yeah.
not for the long term, right? And so, whereas Adam is building that trust through authority and being a thought leader, and whether he realizes it or not, I think he realizes it, but he has that intimate relationship with these people because he's coming into their house or on their run or while they're cleaning or whatever it is every
You
week.
make me sound really invasive.
Yeah, you are, right? And we're doing that with the show too, right? But you have an intimate relationship with these people. So they like you because they're tuning in every week and they trust you because you're providing them value. Caleb does the same thing. I think his superpower is authenticity because he can break down barriers. Like, there's always a little bit of posturing and showmanship at these gatherings of the industry, and everyone sort of has that spotlight syndrome where they think people are paying
Yep.
attention to them more than they are other people, even though we're all in our own heads worried about these things. And Caleb just sort of literally bounces up to you with this joy and presence and it's just so disarming. And he's got that big smile on his face, and he's genuinely happy to see you. And it takes you out of your own head and makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And so that's why people will open up. There's a vulnerability to Caleb that when he shows up, you just feel like, I don't need to put up a God. I don't need to pretend to be.
Yeah.
I can just share myself. I mean, I remember one
Because
of the
he's being
first,
him, you can be
yeah,
you.
Exactly.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and he's very proactive about it. Like, I remember one of the early times when we really didn't know each other that well, and you're showing me pictures of your kid and stuff like that, and it's like, it's so endearing, and it just breaks
Yeah.
down all those barriers. So that
Yeah. There's
it's
another
really good.
point here too that I'd like to hit on. I was presenting to a 30 under 30 group, as you know, the DI 30 under 30s do like different webinars kind of throughout the year.
Hmm.
And it was just on networking. And they kind of asked me, they're like, what are your strengths with networking? Just asking different questions. And one of the things I told them is I was like, when we all go to these conferences, like everyone's a little nervous. I think
Hmm.
it's, we had 2,033 people at DI in Chicago this year. Like that
Hmm.
is daunting. So it's important to remember, like, we're all a little nervous. Never be shy to like break into a circle and introduce yourself. Like I said, we're taking time away from our families and from our immediate work to get to know each other, to spend time together, to build relationships. So, everyone's a little nervous. It's okay to go up to people that you don't know and get to know them because that's why we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't agree
Stuart, I
more.
want to ask you a question, if that's all right. So I think Caleb and I have both, from the vendor side, talked about how vendors can try to break in and connect with the
Hmm.
industry. What I want to understand from you is, the righteous client side of the
Hmm.
table. What is the best way to decide which vendors to work with, to connect with those vendors? What's the best way to also, I mean, one of the things that you've done a good job of with Caleb here is you've told him no several times and you guys are still friends, right? And so I think that is a talent as well, because I think there's a lot of people that when they tell
Yeah.
someone no, they write them off forever. And I've
Yeah.
definitely seen that.
So let me tell you a little bit of how they do that. And then I want to tell you a story that literally happened yesterday about the completely wrong approach. So with Caleb, I do tell him no, but I do it in a consultative way back, right? Because he's trying to
Hmm.
help me. I want to genuinely help him. And so I'll explain why it's a no, like where it's missing, and I'll give him feedback to come back to me with something better next time. Like, if I could see this, this, or this, then this would be more attractive to me. So I'm always sort of giving him advice on how to do better next time, how to be better tomorrow than you are today. So I think that's part of why I can say no to him and he'll come back. Um, but I tell you, one of our problems on the DMO side is the sheer volume of vendors that are hitting us up, right? And so we talked about this on a recent episode. I think it was with Jim, and he was sort of critical of us about how we'll send a vendor straight to our agency, and we get an unsolicited email, and we'll like just pass it off to the agency, and then the agency maybe isn't incentivized to vet the new vendor as well as we might, right? But it's a time limitation kind of a thing. So it's why we do it. So after that episode was recorded, it was just lucky timing. I got one of those solicitations, like a blind thing. It was where someone said the same generic stuff they always say, which is, we got this magical silver bullet. It's better than anyone else. We're using AI. We can target this audience, da 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 da. But it was all generic, and I couldn't decipher what it was, whether it was a product, whether it was a service. Like, I couldn't figure out what they were even saying because it was all really well crafted AI puffery, right? So instead of doing what I used to do, which is send it to the vendor and say, go figure this out, I actually responded to them and said candidly, it's like, listen, I get thousands of these a day. I can't really even tell what this is. I don't know if I need to look at it, if a colleague needs to look at it, I need to send it to a vendor, or if I need to ignore you. And I literally put this back in an email to them and said, so try again, come back to me without an AI written thing, and tell me what value you provide that's unique, that helps me understand it better. And they came back and it was more generic BS. And I was like, no, this is not what I'm asking you for. I'm asking for something very specific. They came back a third time. It was still a little bit better, but they're missing the point because they're not really looking at this from my perspective at all. They have a hammer, and so everything looks like a nail to them. And they're just going to continue to hammer every nail they find, whether that's really the appropriate tool to use or not. And so I think that's where people misunderstand. Like, he's trying to get my attention. He's trying to get some time of mine, but he's not giving me a reason why I should, based on the fact that I might have a dozen of hymns reaching out, hers reaching out every day, and I can't. I literally don't have the time to follow all of them.
I definitely think that's a great example of a poor approach. I think what you said to Caleb earlier, where you said, hey, listen, based on the interactions we've had, I am 100% confident that someday we're going to work together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's way more appropriate than people think to actually have that conversation with a vendor.
Yep.
And so I think, hey, it's not the right time right now. I think that's a very common way to phrase it. But there's a big difference between, hey, it's not the right time and it's never going to be the right time, and hey, it's not the right time, but I would really like to figure out a way to work together in the future. So let's chat when the next budget cycle comes around, or let's chat when this happens. I think if there's vendors that you want to maintain a relationship with as a DMO and that you would like to kind of, I don't know, you kind of keep this circle of people that you could work with so that you can have a bench when the right project comes up. I think it would be really smart for those DMO professionals to actually communicate that to the vendors and say, hey, listen, I appreciate our relationship. I like your product. It's not the right time, but in the next 3 years, I think it could be. So let's make sure we keep in touch. That helps the dynamic so much more. And it's just a little bit of additional communication that will really benefit the long-term relationship.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that there's some tactics that people, and I don't know how scalable this is, so I'm a little reticent to actually share this one because I don't want this to get out of hand. But there's a few vendors that have created a space for me to have good, deep conversations with my peers, where they're part of it. I mean, Adam, you're doing something like this at Esto coming up.
Yeah.
Sojourn has done it where they have a sort of CMO advisory council. People like Amir Elon will do some of his world famous dinners at the different conferences. Matt Steiker and Kwaku and Moody, who have been on the show before, they'll do something very similar at different conferences. I'm not saying I want vendors to buy our favor, right? Because every vendor tries to do that at every conference, and we get invited to every happy hour, every party and stuff. The ones that are valuable to me are the ones where I can sit down with really smart people that see the world the way I see it, and we can talk about solving real problems. Like, if you give me a forum for that, like Sojourn was the first to really do it for me, and being a part of that conversation a couple of years ago really changed my perspective on Sojourn. It changed them from being a vendor to being a collaborative partner. And so
I like that.
Giving me value by understanding what I need without doing the hard sales pitch That's how you build trust. And I'll like you and I'll trust you and I'll do more likely do business with you under those circumstances.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean that's it, right? One of the things that helped me was just being in the industry and being sold to before. I think, that's something that's valuable. I think, yeah, giving destinations the opportunity to collaborate in a safe space, that's huge. Letting them know that we're here to partner with you. We're not here to sell to you. Is just always key.
And we're here to listen to you, and we want to create solutions that we
Hmm.
know you can't create on your own, and we have resources that we can collectively pull together based on the feedback from multiple DMOs to create something that's scalable and cost effective for you. Yeah, for sure. It's tough, right? Because we're all sort of playing a game. There's these, there's everyone's sort of a character in this big game we're playing. And even though I know, like with someone like you, Caleb, that ultimately you want to sell me something, I also feel that you genuinely want to know more about me too, right? And whether the sale comes or not, like I feel like that's genuine. I don't feel that with every vendor. So I think your motivation matters almost as much as your actions, and
100%.
and you can tell the difference between people that email me that actually are just copying and pasting some really well written AI generated intro versus people that have stopped to understand a little bit about who I am or what I do. And
Yeah.
I prefer a less well crafted intro that's more personalized than something that's overly engineered. And I especially would prefer when I do take the time to respond that you do not use AI to generate that response. I would
Yeah.
rather have a conversation with you and what you think versus what the bullets are you threw into ChatGPT to tell me. It may make your life way more efficient as a salesperson, but it's not going to endear you. I'm not going to trust you more. I'm not going to like you more. And ultimately, those are the things that are going to matter if I'm going to make a
Yeah.
decision.
Efficient versus effective, right? Like
Yeah.
you can send as many, emails out as you want that are AI generated, but
Mm-hmm.
to really stop, and that's funny to think, like it used to be like handwritten letters, right? Were like this like really
Oh, yeah.
thoughtful thing. And now it's like just taking the time to write an email is now very thoughtful because everyone's just throwing in points into Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
That little bit of extra effort, that little bit of extra care goes a long
Mm-hmm.
way. And
Yep.
it's up to us to really seek to be a partner. And in my opinion is to really seek to be a friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if all else fails, just bribe us. Send us
Yeah,
lots of
there you
good
go.
gifts, and I'll totally do it. I'm totally kidding. Bribery does not work, so don't do that. Well, this is a cool conversation, Caleb. I appreciate one, you being a friend, two, you being a fan of the show, and three, you coming on and having the courage to talk about this. This is your opportunity. Do a shameless plug for your new gig. Let us know what
Yeah.
you got going on and how people can find you. And if you have any final thoughts or pearls of wisdom you want to share with the industry, now's your time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with Paradise Advertising. We're a full service marketing agency. We just specialize in the DMO space, and our tagline is a partner for good, right? So again, it's that partnership mentality. You guys can find me on LinkedIn, Caleb Sullivan, and you can find us at paradiseadvertising.com. And again, I just really think at the end of the day, on a philosophical level, that the most important thing we can do is get to know each other, enjoy each other's company, and become friends with one another. And in my opinion, business kind of flows from that. So yeah, I appreciate the time. This is honestly like a crown on my career just being on this podcast. So I really appreciate it, guys.
You're
That
only
just shows
28.
you're,
It's
yeah,
all
you're
up from
early.
here. It's yeah, it gets much better, buddy. Don't worry. You haven't peaked too soon. Uh, Adam, if they want to find you, or if you have any final pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, first of all, I'm really excited for you, Caleb, with where you've landed. I think Barbara and Tony are awesome people. I've actually gotten the chance to get to know them a little bit, and I'm excited for you. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. Um, I also just, with this relationship building concept, I cannot tell you how many times relationships have come full circle for me. People that either have worked for me that eventually became clients, or people who have been vendors of mine that, or maybe clients of mine that eventually became a vendor for me. Like it just circles around. The world is actually pretty small, especially in our space. And so I think it's really important to build and maintain high quality relationships. And going back to Caleb, what you said, that the guy wanted you to put a monetary value on each relationship that you have. You never know, you can't predict it, and the key is to just provide value to the people that you interact with, and trust that it's going to come around and benefit you in the long run as well. And I don't know, I just think that's a really valuable way to approach life in general instead of a transactional way. So I appreciate the conversation today. If people want to find me on LinkedIn, Adam Stoker. Find me on Tourism IQ or adam@thebrandrevolt.com.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Adam. I think for me, the sale that inevitably will come is the byproduct of the relationship, right? It's not the sole focus when you enter into the relationship. If you know that you do these certain things right, then it's more than likely that you're going to end up doing business. But I think once you build a relationship, you can understand each other. With that mutual understanding, we talked about this before, you can have a shared reality, right? You can understand and see the world's problems the same way. And I think once you have that shared reality, then you can start to craft solutions that are actually going to solve the real problems that people are facing. And that's ultimately when value is created, and that's when money will be spent is on that value that's being created. And so I think you do a stellar job, and there are others in the industry that do that. And so thank you, Caleb, for being on the show. And we're going to have to get your buddy on here too, as another big fan.
Tyler.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll get Tyler on here. He'd love it.
Maybe he can pitch himself to a DMO if he's trying to crack
You know
into
what?
the industry.
We should do that. Let's have Tyler come do his pitch for why a DMO needs to hire him here on the show.
There you
I think
go.
that would be
I love
really
it.
There you go.
I love it.
That's pretty funny. Please subscribe to the show. Our listenership has actually gone up dramatically recently. Like I mentioned earlier, Emily's episode was our number one listened to episode so far, and we've seen the episodes since then have really getting good traction. So we're definitely onto something here, Adam. We're building the destination. And like I said, when we went to Destinations International, a lot of people were very complimentary and talked about the value it's providing. And so we'll be at
now we
next
get
week.
to tap into Caleb's network.
That's true.
There you
Caleb,
go.
tell everyone hey, if you can't do business with me, at least go listen to this podcast.
100%.
That should be your pitch.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But we're going to be at ESTO next week when this launches. So hopefully we'll see some of our Desties there. Please, I think. Do you know what time our session is? I think it's on the Monday or the Tuesday.
It's in the afternoon. I can't remember the exact.
I think it's right
time,
after
but
lunch, right? One of those.
Yeah.
But it's Destination Discourse Live. We're going to be having some fun interaction with the audience, and then we're going to be giving away some T-shirts. So we're excited to do that, and so hopefully
if
we'll
you
get to see
like
you
the
there.
Stu's News jingle, you're gonna love the swag we hand out.
Love
it. So please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and until next time, this has been Destination Discourse.
Thanks, everybody.